And for Haliburton to step up and that Pacers team to step up and win that game against guys that have been there 100,000 times, with the stakes being, higher than they've ever been for what would be a game played during the regular season, I thought was mega impressive. I really did. My God. Ooh. That was better than we could have ever anticipated it being. A level of intensity that was there the entire game. A crowd that was obviously super amped up for this game, and an extremely high level of play. Officials letting them play through contact. I thought the announcers were good. Everything about Pacers Celtics was wildly enjoyable, and what a coming out party for Haliburton, who's hardly ever on national television. And
they said during the broadcast, his first ever TNT game?
That's crazy.
What? It's his fourth season in the league.
That's outrageous.
How's that possible? But man.
Yeah, because you would think even some of those teams, they try to get them on TNT. You're usually on there at least once because they'll schedule in your Lakers game, right? You'll get on because of the other team at least in some cases when you're not one of the premier teams. But this is a team that we have talked about quite a bit as a very good story. Last year, when Haliburton went out, they had a great record, and then his injury just kind of wrecked their season. And now from day one, they have been the highest scoring team in the NBA. They've been a fun watch, and now they are 11-8, and they are on their way to the semifinals as one of the final four teams that's going to play in this in-season tournament in Vegas. What were you left thinking about the most after that game?
Just that finish, the final 2 minutes when the Pacers had the 4-point play by Haliburton, this crazy shot, one of the multiple wild 3-pointers that Haliburton hit. That was the 4-point play. And then they had the Buddy Hield 3, and then the Nesmith play where he dunks the ball. The whole arena's going wild. The teammates all mob him on the court. Just that sequence is going to stick with me just because it really did. It was multiple exclamation points at the end of, like you said, a very intense game. It was high level competition throughout. And I thought that was a proper finish with each play building up and making the crowd more and more hyped. But I thought for Haliburton, the 0 assist, granted he almost had one at the end there. It was deflected out of bounds by Drew Holiday instead of stolen, but 13 assists, 0 turnovers, 10 rebounds, 26 points, with the far majority of those coming in the second half. He said in his post-game interview, he said my first half was terrible. I was huffing and puffing, had to hit an inhaler at halftime. It wasn't a good first half for him. But man, that second half, I mean, you said his coming out party, it really was. It was a game.
Triple-double?
Yeah, a lot of people watching him probably for the first time, national TV, and seeing this funky style of play with the way he shoots the ball, the funky form, and his ability to get to the basket and make his teammates better. Man, I mean, on the Pacers side of things, it's cool to see them do it. And also, even though they gave up 112 in the game, the Celtics did score, I did feel like they did elevate their intensity on defense as well. They just don't have any help defense. They don't have any interior defense, but their perimeter defensive intensity to pick up to help them build that lead in the second half.
Defense and rebounding.
Yes.
Because they got absolutely smoked on the boards in the first half of that game. It was a 55-48 game at halftime, and they were getting out rebounded 33-19.
How many three chance possessions did the Celtics have? It felt like, right?
Well, in the first half, I jotted this down. It was 52 shots to 45 shots. So I mean, and that just can't be the case if you are the team. If you're the underdog team, the underdog team has got to hustle. They got to rebound, and they got to keep their turnovers low. And those are all the things they did in the second half of that game. They rebounded like hell. They're almost even on the rebounds. They got more shots in the second half than did the Celtics, and they came out after halftime, and their turnovers anemically low. They had 6 turnovers, Kevin, for the entire game. So when you're able to treasure the ball like that, and you're able to do all the hustle stuff, you give yourself a chance. And they came out in that third quarter, and look, this is one of the things that I talked about that was a concern. Now, you can write it off and you can say, well, this isn't that big of a deal. It's the in-season tournament. They don't have Porzingis. If they have Porzingis, they would have beat him, whatever. But these are the guys, like, you are going to be facing an awesome coach in many cases in the Eastern Conference, right? You are going to have to go up against Eric Spoelstra. You're going to go up against Rick Carlisle. You're going to go up to a lot of guys that have coached a lot of games and have made a lot of adjustments. And they came out in the third quarter and they ran the Celtics out. They won that quarter 37-23 and got that pace completely up. It was like they went halftime and they fixed things, right? And they came out and they won that by 14. But what's most impressive to me is they were up with about 8 minutes left to go. They got up 7 points, and the Celtics just erased that. You know, Tatum hits a couple of shots, White hits a shot, and now, like, okay, here's that defense, and now there's 6 minutes to go, and it's kind of like a tie game. And for Haliburton to step up and that Pacers team to step up and win that game against guys that have been there 100,000 times, with the stakes being, you know, higher than they've ever been for what would be a game played during the regular season, I thought was mega impressive. I really did.
It absolutely was. And you mentioned it in passing there about you could say the Celtics didn't have Porzingis. That is a pretty big factor. What have I been saying to you ever since they got him? The Celtics, he is their X factor. They are a championship team with Porzingis. They aren't without him. And I do think we saw that tonight with Indiana constantly exploiting that. Boston's lack of rim protection without Porzingis, getting to the rim, driving kick, creating fairly open or wide open three-point shooting opportunities. Having Porzingis also would help Boston's half-court offense too. There were so many plays, especially with the bench units, where Boston generated no ability to create an open shot. Like there was one play in the second half where Peyton Pritchard dribbled the ball up the floor, picked his dribble up, handed off to Drew Holiday, who took a really dumb three-pointer with 15 seconds on the shot clock, heavily contested. Instead of moving the ball, there was no movement off ball. With Porzingis, he's a guy you could throw the ball to on the post and let him make a play. You can have him pick and pop. You can have him roll to the rim. He just adds another weapon to Boston's offense. And, you know, as I said, defensively, he's critical for them. I felt with Indiana, they came with a game plan and attacking that. And Boston, without him, they're just not a championship team. They're just straight up not.
Well, and they really, Hauser was great for them off the bench. That's it. I mean, they got nothing out of anybody else. Nothing.
Yeah, Cornette had the offensive boards. He created some second chances. Right. But other than that, Pritchard had a really, really bad game. Banton, solid player, but I mean,
a lot of cardio. 11 minutes of cardio for Delano Blanton.
I don't understand Mazzulla not tightening the rotation.
He did. I mean,
kind
of.
Only
play. He only. I mean, look, you got to play somebody. But only Cornette played over 20.
Yeah, but even Carlisle,
I'm sorry. Hauser played over 20.
He didn't play Nembhard more than 5 minutes. TJ McConnell didn't get over 10. I mean, it was a really, really tight rotation where he had 5 guys over 30 minutes, 7 guys over 25 minutes. That was an even tighter rotation than Boston, where Haliburton cracked 40 minutes. Nobody cracked 40 minutes for Boston. I'm not saying that would have made the difference in the game for the Celtics, but I'm a little surprised to see Banton in the game.
Well, that's probably the veteran coach, right? He plays McConnell for 9 minutes. He's like, all right, you ain't doing shit. You don't play no more. Nembhard, you ain't doing nothing. Get on out of here. Well, look, and they wanted to win this thing. That's what I'll say. You saw, we wondered how these coaches would treat this. This is like what you would do for a playoff rotation. This is not a a Monday night regular season game rotation. We're trying to win this game. And so if that means that we got to play Haliburton 40 minutes, we're playing him 40 minutes tonight. And I was pretty impressed, man. I was pretty impressed with Indiana. And most importantly, just that crowd. The crowd is great. Like, you wanted that to feel bigger. It felt bigger.
Way bigger.
Did.
It did. Mm-hmm.
It did. Even if it's all manufactured, it felt big. They manufactured what they needed to, which was this actually felt bigger. And it also had the moments. The Haliburton 4-point play, announcer going crazy, crowd going insane. That felt like a playoff environment. And when he made that shot, and as you said, the sequence where they get the run out and Nembhard gets the dunk, that was like,
Nesmith.
Bro. Oh, yeah, Nesmith.
Yeah. And then Hield had the 3 before that, too. That reminded me, like, for some reason, it took me back to, I went to a Red Sox game with my dad, like in 2008, something like that. Red Sox had 4 home runs in a row. And like each home run, the Fenway Park crowd got more and more intense, louder and louder. That's what it was like with those 3 plays in the final 2 minutes for the Pacers, where it's like one crazy play after another, and it's just this explosion with the Nesmith dunk. It's just I don't know, like it would have been one of those games that, like I mentioned, that Red Sox game, that is just with you forever. If you're a Pacers fan in the crowd for that moment, that's something you're always going to have with you as a fan of the Indiana Pacers, as a fan of the NBA, for as long as you live. It was a special. Like I was laughing. I just couldn't help but laugh. It was just so cool to watch.